Cuyahoga River has changed a lot since 1969. The last year it caught on fire. Toxic areas have been cleaned up, trash and junk have been cleared away, and thousands of native trees, grasses, and shrubs have been planted, all to rebuild a unique habitat. Heck, I'm kayaking on the Cuyahoga River willingly, something that was unheard of 50 years ago. And it's not out of some desire to get superhuman mutant powers. I'm just enjoying my afternoon. But habitat restoration is hard work, and it's not just pollution and trash that gets into the watershed. Sometimes it's the rivers and streams themselves that get changed. What we need is extreme makeover, aquatic ecosystem edition. Hey, finally a reality show I'd be proud to binge watch. To teach me more about stream restoration is a guy who's been working on just those kind of projects here in Cuyahoga Valley National Park, Park Ranger Chris Davis. Ranger Chris, thanks for inviting me out here.
Our pleasure. Thanks for coming.
Well, where exactly is here anyways?
So right now we're standing at a small creek at the park we call Stanford Run. It's located in pretty much the middle of Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So it is nice right now. There's a lot of native plants, there's a lot of insects, there's fish in the creek. And before we started this project, this creek basically did not exist. Way back in the distance there is a trail, they called it the Towpath Trail, and that was constructed to have, animals pull canal boats down the Ohio and Erie Canal. So when they built that towpath trail along the canal, they cut off all these creeks. And to try and kind of accommodate that, they put in pipes that back in the 1800s were big enough to carry the expected flow of the creeks under the towpath trail, sometimes even under the canal. Those pipes aren't big enough to carry the precipitation we get now. We get a lot more rain today than we got even 10 years ago, and way more than we got 50 or 80 or 100 years ago. So those small pipes they put in were no longer able to carry this flow. So what happened? They basically filled in, and this just began to back up. And so over the years, over the decades, this creek, all the dirt, all the rocks, all the gravel it was carrying, just kind of filled itself in.
So that towpath kind of dammed everything up, and I guess,
Correct.
well, yeah, we see all this kind of rocks and pebbles and stuff, and that's kind of built up over time and then filled in the creek?
Correct.
Well, how do you go from no creek to beautiful creek?
We were able to look at old photos, and we documented the historic alignment of the creek back beginning in the 1930s through the 1980s. Then we just reestablished that same meandering pattern that we saw in those old photos. And we did that by bringing in this case, a lot of heavy equipment, big excavators, backhoes, big dump trucks to haul the dirt, out of the canal.
Yeah.
And then we just basically redug and dug and dug till we got to the historic elevation, established vegetation, planted seeds, planted trees. So we came in and we seeded it immediately to try and establish some kind of native vegetation for the birds and the bugs and the other things we wanted back immediately. And those included milkweeds for the butterflies. Everybody knows about monarchs and milkweeds. Included a lot of sedges, a lot of other wildflowers, purple coneflower, black-eyed Susan, some common, some not so common. We've also worked with tons of other partners. A lot. Probably our biggest partner on this kind of project outside of moving the dirt has been students, particularly middle school students, but also some younger, also some older, but really the middle school students who've come out here, hundreds of them from local schools, to help us plant the native trees that we're trying to use to reforest this section.
Well, Chris, thanks so much for teaching me how you guys restored this awesome habitat. This is awesome work, and I'm sure all the living things are pretty thankful too.
I hope so.
Nature is not indestructible, but it is resilient. If you take care of a space, make sure it's clean from pollution, and allow plants and wildlife to do their thing, it's amazing how quickly an ecosystem can bounce back. And that's great news because while we do need to be preserving and protecting the wilderness areas that remain intact, it's important that we also restore habitat wherever we can. What about in your neck of the woods? Is there a space that you can restore to its former native glory? Doesn't have to be anything big. It can be a small little plot in your backyard or maybe a rain garden at school. Check out OutSCIder.org for cool projects you can do to provide a home for native plants and wildlife. Want to learn more about our national parks? Then hit that subscribe button, friend. Stay up to date and catch bonus features by following us on Instagram @OutSCIder.